for the individuals who have brought themselves into secret association to protect the divine knowledge and spiritual learning, and who want to make this knowledge available to those who are prepared to accept it. Remember that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. These societies, of which Hakim has helped me to understand, these societies of the priesthood have never kept this knowledge in a clandestine way. They protected it so as to give it to those who were worthy to know, who wanted to know, who were showing the correct spiritual foundations to accept this kind of knowledge. And the wrong hands could be very dangerous. We have found that academic and, what am I trying to say? That technology, academics and technology, without spiritual morality is a very dangerous thing. And so consequently, I, for one, appreciate the spiritual brotherhood who carries the wisdom that we are hoping to receive when we're ready. And again, I pay tribute to my teacher, Kareem, and others who have helped me to appreciate this better understanding of the general subject of secret societies. Now, that is not to say that there aren't societies who are founded for negative purposes. But that seems to be the way of the world. But I am mostly interested now in pursuing that wisdom which I realize has been here from day one and that is readily available to anyone who wishes it, provided, of course, that you have prepared yourself to be borne along by that spirit. You cannot go into the mysteries, the ancient mysteries, with preconceived ideas about what truth is. As I said, truth is a very, well, it's been said before me, truth is a very subjective thing. So I consider that this is something that we all need to start thinking in terms of. Putting away preconceived ideas, going before the divine and asking for enlightenment, asking for guidance, and leaving it at that. You'd be surprised what the Spirit can do with you if you just put down all of your defenses and just make yourself available to the Spirit and say, help me to understand, and watch what happens to you. I am also persuaded that going into the Great Pyramid may very well have some sort of a spiritual effect on one. I cannot imagine that all of the tourists who have gone into the pyramid have appreciated it correctly. I think also, and this is just my opinion, since no one asked for it, I'll give it. It is my opinion that the Spirit will give to whomever it chooses, whatever it chooses. For many are called, but few are chosen. The principle being is that it will decide, that divine presence in the universe that men have called God. That one will decide what you will know and what you will have and what you won't. Just as your parents, knowing better than you as a child what you should know and not know, what you should be involved in and not be involved in, we are children of God. We are children of the divine, and I think that that divine presence will decide for us, according to our progress, what we will know and when we will know it. Therefore, I think the wisest thing and the wisest action would be for us to try, to the best of our ability, to prepare ourselves to enter into a spiritual domain which is very holy. I consider the pyramid, the Sphinx, and this entire ancient land to be holy. I think it is proven by the fact that all of the kings of the world have come to this land. All of the great minds, mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, all the great intellects of the world have pondered the mysteries of Egypt. They haven't found them out yet. So I have a very high respect for this people, this place, and the ability to be this close proximity to the Great Pyramids. It's a little after 11. I have some other subjects I'd like to get into. I want to go back and finish this anti-Semitism thing that I started. I think it is something that we need to look at because it is not only devastating to Semitics, it is also the same kind of thinking, hatred, whatever, is turned against all of us. I mean, there was a quote from Nazi Germany. One Holocaust survivor, I recall, said something to the effect that when they came for Catholics, I was not a Catholic, so I really didn't care much. And, when they came for the Protestants, I'm not a Protestant, so what did I care? But when the powers that be finally came for me, there was no one left to help to protect me. I think that this is the problem. Too many people have decided that because it doesn't affect me, if I'm not Semitic, it doesn't affect me. When nothing could be further from the truth. The same mentality that would harm the family across the street has no respect for you either. This entire concept of racism, of the manipulation of people, exploitation of differences, needs to be exposed for what it is. I believe that we are different. There are different cultures in the world. There are different mannerisms in people, just as there are differences in women. There are differences in men. But one thing that does bind us together is that this earth is a living entity, and we're not passengers. We're part of the crew. We are part of this divine creation of the earth. And so I think we need to start respecting each other and it a lot better, because if not, chaos is going to reign in this world, and those masters who manipulate chaos will come out the winners. We will be even more subjected to totalitarian dictatorship. I think it's a time for freedom. I love to be free. I don't want to be the handmaiden of a totalitarian dictatorship. And so that's what I'm saying, that the idea being is that we need to clean up this kind of thinking across the board, because it's not just anti-Semitism, it's the hatred of different races and different peoples and the feeling of superiority among one group over another. There is no such thing. And with that, I would also add that I get up sometimes like at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning and stand and observe those city awakening. And I see children on the street with little things to sell. And I see tourists pushing them aside, and that hurts me very much. I don't think for 1 minute that people who are visiting this land should in any way mistreat the people who live here. I think that if nothing else, I would be totally broke because I would give everything to the children. That's my feeling. But I don't think that we should not be that kind of person to look at a child and consider him to be a pest because he's trying to get our attention. I think we ought to show more love and concern and consideration for everybody, and especially the children. Politics. First of all, I have no respect for politics. That's basically what I could say on that. We'll go on to another subject. The very word politics, polis, gives us the word politicians who make policy, backed up by police. I mean, the whole thing is nothing more than some way to control you. I want to give you an example of how clever the people at the top of this world are. There are many things that, and this would especially apply to Americans. I think you will appreciate it perhaps more than Europeans, but it just goes to show you how clever people can be in their wanting to manipulate and exploit people. I am not an authority on this subject at all. I am a novice. And I may have certain facts incorrect, but the basics I want you to understand. In the 1870s, after the Civil War, there was a corporation founded. There is a lot of documentation I can provide for anyone later who wants to get the correct material, but I'm just giving you a cursory understanding. There was a corporation founded 1870s. It was incorporated in Delaware. And the corporation's name, like Coca-Cola and McDonald's, that corporation was referred to in its corporate papers as the United States. Very clever. And it was stipulated that the employees of that corporation would not be called employees, but would be called citizens. So that today in America, they ask you if you're a citizen of the United States, what you think they are asking you is, are you lawfully in the country of America? That's not what they ask you. They ask you, are you a citizen of the United States, means, do you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testify that you are a franchisee of a foreign corporation incorporated in the 1870s on the International Maritime Admiralty Law? Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, making yourself an employee of a foreign corporation called, incidentally, United States? Consequently, rather clever, I suspect. Consequently, that opens up a whole can of worms. It shows that there is a corporation, a company that was founded, and that we are merely franchisees of a foreign corporation. There's all kinds of interesting things begin to come out once you understand the principles. A classic example are terms and words. Are you aware that in the Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 1948 edition, if you look up the word human being, go to a law library or to a large library and look up Ballantyne's Law Dictionary and look up the word human being. And it will say, see monster. So you look up the word monster. I wish I would have brought it so I could have shown it to you. And it says a monster is like a man or a woman, but it's a human being, meaning lesser than a man and a woman. Therefore, it cannot inherit land. It has certain things it cannot do because it's not a man or a woman. It's a human being. The whole idea of words and terms. For instance, when you go into a courtroom, why do they call it a courtroom? Why do they say that you are going there for justice, when the very word justice comes from the Emperor Justinian? And Justinian, whatever his decision was, that was justice. So today we have justice. Incidentally, are you aware of the fact that we have something in America called a system of justice? We have an educational system, a judicial system, a governmental system. how many people, the general subject of secret societies. Now that is not to say that there aren't societies who are founded for negative purposes. But that seems to be the way of the world. But I am mostly interested now in pursuing that wisdom which I realize is these societies, of which Hakim has helped me to understand, these societies of the priesthood have never kept this knowledge in a clandestine way. They protected it so as to give it to those who were worthy to know, who wanted to know, who were showing the correct spiritual thing. And so consequently, I, for one, appreciate the spiritual brotherhood who carries the wisdom that we are hoping to receive when we're ready. And again, I pay tribute to my teacher, Kareem, and others who have helped me to appreciate this better understanding for the individuals who have brought themselves into secret association to protect the divine knowledge and spiritual learning, and who want to make this knowledge available to those who are prepared to accept it. Remember that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The foundations to accept this kind of knowledge in the wrong hands could be very dangerous. We have found that academic and, what am I trying to say? That technology, academics and technology, without spiritual morality is a very dangerous